episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And today we're ranking our top 10 wide receivers in the NFL right now. Last episode we did our top 10 quarterbacks, so if you missed that, make sure you go ahead and check that out. But before we get started, Matt, Theo, how are you doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon? Mother's Day.
Shout out.
Yes, happy Mother's Day. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to Matt's mom. Shout out to Blaiden's mom. Shout out to every mother.
Real.
How many moms do you think listen to the podcast?
Ooh, probably 3.
Probably 3.
Well, I feel like that's
4,
generous.
because Cammie's mom listens to Stay Hot.
Okay.
My mom does
Hello,
not
Maria,
listen to
if
Stay
you're
Hot,
listening.
I promise you.
Oh, so still at 3.
Mom, sound off in the comments if you can.
I know my mom and my girlfriend's mom hold it down sometimes.
Okay.
So
That's respect.
we're at least at 3.
Real. But how are you guys doing on Mother's Day?
Fine.
I'm
I
doing
got
pretty
nothing to
good.
report.
I'm doing pretty good. I sent my mom a box with a gift, but I'm realizing now I put the wrong address on it for the return. I didn't put my address down. I combined my address in Flagstaff with my address here in Denver, so it was a Frankenstein of an address. So I hope it got to her. Just it didn't get sent back to some random person here in Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know where that bro sent it to a made up place. To Narnia.
I hope some folks in the middle of rural Arkansas enjoy my candles and my soap and my note.
So true. I got my mom for her birthday. I got her a bonsai, and I was like, "Oh, I was gonna get you a shrub for your garden, but I thought you already had a lot of that stuff, so I got you a bonsai." And she was like, "Well, this is like harder to take care of. I think you should have gotten me a shrub." And I'm like, "Okay." So I got her some daisies for her garden.
That's big time.
A shrubbery.
Yeah, you know how it goes.
A bonsai is cool. Those are dope, though.
Bonsais are
I'll
cool. That's
take
what
it
I
off
was.
your hands.
Well, they're supposed to be really hard to take care of. Is the only thing.
Yeah, that's valid too. If something's hard to take care of, being like, look, just I don't want to kill another plant. Just take it somewhere else. I get it as someone who's brought things in, and like my snail immediately killed them. I understand.
You understand. But should we get into this receiver rankings?
I want to talk about one other topic first. The Hawks getting the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft lottery. A play-in team. First overall, just luck of the draw.
That's crazy.
I'm trying to decide how I feel about the lottery. I understand being really frustrated, and it really doesn't do that much, I think. Like, if you got rid of the NBA draft lottery, I think the events of this season would have transpired pretty much in the exact same way. And really even last season with Wembanyama coming down the pipe. Like, I think there would still be a lot of losing happening and like teams resting their starters because they'd still, like, what would materially change? But at the same time, I'm not against the chaos of it
I think it should be a little bit.
from a neutral standpoint.
This should be a little bit geared towards higher, like the worst teams. You have to have it because otherwise, last year it would have been straight up like teams going out there and trying to lose if it came down to the last few games, like actively like don't make this shot, I'm putting out.
You think
But
so?
they almost, here's the thing, the problem is like the best strategy is still to tank if you're rebuilding. That's still the best thing to do. It just doesn't work as well. And then the teams who are honestly bad get screwed, man. The Hornets haven't won a playoff series since I was an infant, and they haven't gotten the first overall pick in my entire life. How is it possible that
Even
we're
when
this
they were the
bad?
Bobcats? Or
Yeah.
they had to have when they were the Bobcats.
No. They
The Bobcats never did.
Nope. When they won 7
Wow.
games, they got the second overall pick and got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist instead of Anthony
I mean,
Davis.
that's kind of what's happening with the Pistons right now.
Well, I mean, it's yeah. The Pistons already had the first overall pick. It's not. It's actually not the same. They already got it, man.
You're right. It's not been.
Look,
never,
I don't
has
disagree
it?
that them moving down to 5 is tough, man. I don't know. It's just more. I guess I can't complain because the Hornets have a second and third overall pick on their roster right now. But I look at some shit like the Spurs, dude, where it's like, okay, well, they get the first overall pick 3 times, and every time it's a Hall of Famer and MVP. It's like, okay.
You
A
should
lot
let
of
the
times you
fans
just
vote.
need to be in the position.
You should let the fans
Fan
vote for the top 10
vote for the first
like an
Lakers.
all-star.
Big 5 with Zion and Wembanyama and whoever else. Yeah. And and people are in the comments are gonna be like, "Oh, you're salty." It's like, yeah, dude. It's like, yep, my team is so ass, man.
I'm
So
sorry.
you
Matt.
so you would
But
keep it around. You would
The Hawks have never had it before, so fair enough. I guess they were due. And who
They've
are we
never
to deny?
had
And
it.
it's not even
That's crazy.
yeah.
I feel like the luck of
it
is just so random too that
It's
it
so
kind of
random,
like there's
and it's so
you
important.
need it in a good year, right? Like the Spurs getting
Mhm.
it and the Hawks getting it is not the same. Plus, most of the time, like just the draft is a crapshoot in general. So mixing around the order like in certain years and it's just another way to do it. And really the results, I mean, you can think of specific examples of when your team got screwed, but you're not keeping track of all the times your team got helped. And really over the course of time, it probably gets somewhat close to 0. So every year there's like quirks, right? And the Hawks get it this year, but it's a bad year, right? So if you get it 4th overall next year, maybe that's better. I don't know. Like it's kind of hard to quantify except for like,
Yeah.
in this specific year, zooming into like just right now, it's my team got screwed. But
The
if you look at it
Spurs
over the
one
big
is very eyebrow raising.
I don't think
is it
think
though?
that
It's like the Spurs were
literally-
ass or like.
I don't think that it's rigged. I think it's just like just sucks, man. NBA comes down to having like one of the 5 best players in the league most of the time. You go back and look at all the championships since like 1980, you're going to see 80%, 85% of those winners have like one of the best like 15 players ever on their team. Most of the time, not always, but most of the time, you kind of know, and they're the first overall pick. Not necessarily the case. I mean, there's plenty of examples of that not being the case with Kawhi and Giannis and Curry, but there's just as many Tim Duncans or Wembanyama's going to get to that level, or LeBron's or whoever, Shaq. And it's like, man, it's just a complete dice roll on who gets those guys, and it's lame when it's never your team,
Yeah.
It is. It
it's
is.
like, okay,
And
well,
That's
my
fair.
team is like, I think people, I just don't think, I don't know. I'm just going to cry about the Hornets being bad. We can move on to the NFL segment.
I guess it's one more thing I want to say. Pro draft lottery. Randomizing the results at the end makes it so you never get a moment where like the Texans win a game at the end and that changes their franchise for the worst like the next several years. Or what team was that? It was the Texans, right?
It was the Jets.
Lovie Smith. Yeah, Lovie Smith or the Jets won one against Lovie Smith maybe. The Texans were involved on that Hail Mary and then they missed out on the number one overall pick.
I thought it made the Jets get the second overall pick. I could be wrong.
Yeah, you're right. It was
what
the
you're talking
Jets,
about.
wasn't it? It may have been against it. Yeah, but at any rate, winning a game no longer becomes worse for your team. And that's the case in the NFL towards the end, where instead of fan bases thinking, oh man, that time the draft lottery didn't go our way was so brutal. You have fan bases thinking, man, that time we scored a touchdown and won that game ended up being so brutal. And honestly, the luck of the ping pong balls is probably a more sound way to do it than like teams winning games being the like horrific moment for your team. I don't know.
But it's still
smoothing it all over
functionally
with
the
odds.
same thing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's still. I was at the end of the season. It didn't end up mattering, but the Hornets won a game that they shouldn't have because the Cavs were also tanking for that game, and it hurt their draft line. And then they had to go win a tiebreaker against the Trailblazers, which they did, so that's cool. But like, dude, I honestly completely disagree. I wish the Hornets had way more control over their ability to get like top players, man. Like,
Yeah, I guess I understand that.
You can do everything in your power, and it's like they just have to get a little bit luckier at some point. Unless, of course, they're like geniuses and they draft Jokic or whatever, but they're not, man, at all. And Adam Silver does need to rig it a little bit, and he needs to help out some of the stupid front offices. But
maybe they should wait it. Maybe they should weight the ping pong balls based on how past lotteries have gone and not just.
I was thinking that, but then it would really. Then it would be even more so like, yeah, you want to be bad no matter what. Like you would want to be bad even in seasons where you're kind of good because you'd want to be in the lottery just to like keep the ball rolling on that. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I guess there's just no good way to suck.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyway, let's talk about the wide receiving core after that 10 minutes.
Let's talk about the wide receiving core. I assume we'll go 1 to 10, how we did the quarterbacks. Same setup, unless you guys have any objections to that.
Works for me.
I got no issue with doing it 1 to 10.
All right. So with that being said, our consensus, because we're doing a consensus list, we have all three of our lists and then the ranked choice voting board account set up. Our consensus number one wide receiver in the NFL is Justin Jefferson. It was close, though. It was very close. 2 votes for Jefferson, 1 vote for Tyreek Hill. Matt, you were the Tyreek Hill truther here.
It's a close one.
It is close.
I originally had it Jefferson at 1, and then I changed my mind.
I will say Tyreek Hill is number 2. So we can.
Well, yeah, naturally. Yeah. These guys are tier 1, and I don't want to say it's a considerable gap, but I wouldn't even consider anybody else for the second spot over these two guys.
I just think about it like, if I'm a quarterback, what receivers would I want to throw to the most? And I feel like Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill just make, I mean, the good ones, yeah. But those guys in particular, I feel like just make your job so much easier. I mean, think about how many games Justin Jefferson has won for the Vikings basically by himself, or at least been able to keep close, and how many big plays Tyreek Hill's able to generate both before and after the catch. It makes your life so much easier throwing the football.
Yeah, I mean, that Bills game is one of the all-time just like, this guy is too good and you're going to win because that guy is too good moments. I think I just value Tyreek's game-breaking speed a little bit more. And honestly, like, first off, let's be clear. Tyreek Hill has had all-time production the last couple of years. Now, Jefferson would have done the same thing, which is why this is close. He got banged up, but both of these guys at one point were like on pace for 2,000 yards at a good point through the season.
Yeah.
But I think about, like, I don't know, some of the Tua deep shots, I guess, where they're a little bit wobbly, they don't quite get there, and Tyreek works back for him. And I think he's on a good offense that does a good job getting him the ball, obviously. Like, he deserves a lot of credit for that. But I could say the same about Jefferson. And I think Tyreek is, I don't know where I'm going with this. I just value his superpower speed as that tiebreaker between these two.
Yeah, I think it's not a invalid take, and it's one that I have held for a long time. But man, Jefferson this year, I finally couldn't deny it. and for Jefferson to start the season on the pace he was at, it was all time. It was 150 yards, it was 159 yards, it was 149 yards, it was 85, and then he got hurt in a game where he had 28. But still, those first 4 games, ridiculous. He comes back from injury. He has the Detroit game, which was a lot like the Bills game, in that they had needed a drive to go win it at the end, and he was just making ridiculous catch after ridiculous catch, and it was Nick Mullins throwing him the ball. And then Mullins threw like a horrible interception when I think Jefferson was also like open to win the game. And he just literally carried this team and Nick Mullins to the doorstep of another win. And then 2 weeks later, he has 192 yards versus Detroit. It's like, man, the dude over the past 2 years is on a 17-game pace per 17 games of 1,815 yards. And he's been like that since he was a rookie. And it's like Tyreek Hill has the speed on him, and Tyreek Hill is still so phenomenal that despite the pace that Jefferson is on, like Tyreek's yards per route run is a full yard higher than Jefferson, which is fucking ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
with how efficient Jefferson is. Like that Tyreek is this outlier in efficiency. But man, I saw Tyreek like drop just enough passes at the end of last year that were like crucial, where I was like, man, I think I just would rather have Jefferson like in these moments. I don't know. It is 1 and 2.
Jefferson to me is just like the perfect wide receiver. I mean, he does everything well. Somewhere. He just does everything right. Literally everything. He is what like Marvin Harrison Jr. should be in a couple of years, or maybe right away. I don't know, but like
he's not going to be. But it's like that's such a high bar. Like Jefferson has everything, but there's a lot of wide receivers who are well-rounded. Like Jefferson is like an A+ at everything. It's crazy. And for him to have the success that he's had, everyone knows that he's getting the ball. I mean, I think that Nick Mullins to Justin Jefferson was 11th in connection success rate, like between a quarterback and a wide receiver. And it's like, usually it's Mahomes up there or Josh Allen or, somebody crazy good. And then there's Nick Mullins up there because he's getting to throw to Justin Jefferson. So I leaned Jefferson a little bit just because he suffered a major injury and still just was putting up like monster game after monster game. I was just like, this guy just won't quit. But I understand Tyreek.
Well, Tyreek did put up 1,800 yards. He wasn't even on pace for it. And he did it in 16 games. If you go back through his last 17 games, he's got 1,881 yards. He led the NFL in yards per game, and he led the NFL in touchdowns. Only problem is that he didn't have the most catches for the Triple Crown, but he had 119. That's a Triple Crown level season out of him. And
it is.
We would. I don't know, man. I think that's pretty unbelievable.
Hey, man, he had 1,799.
He had 1,799 in 16 games. In 16 games. So I'll give you that. I think he's still completely unbelievable. I mean, 112 yards a contest is absolutely nuts, man. And he would have been right on the cusp of, if he had kept up that pace, he would have been right on the cusp of the all-time single season record, right?
Yeah.
So I think the superpower speed does still put him slightly over Jefferson, but it's hard to deny. Like it's bizarre to say because Jefferson has had a nearly perfect start to his career. Outside of the fact that he got injured last year, it's like, how could you possibly be any better than this without it being like Madden and you're controlling the character and that type of stuff? He really is unbelievable. And then you say like, well, Tyreek's better than him. But then it's not even like I can give you a knock on Jefferson's game. It's like, this is why Jefferson isn't as good because he's got this negative. It's not like that, man. I just don't know. And at some point,
these two.
My opinion on it kind of is that like eventually Jefferson's going to pass Tyreek, and it could be at any moment where his production will become better. And maybe Tyreek will get a little bit older. He'll lose his step. Not saying that's coming this year or anything, but eventually. So like maybe it's good to be on that train now because it's neck and neck. They're 1A and 1B. But I think I'm still rolling with Tyreek for now.
I'm riding with Jefferson, man. He is the perfect wide receiver. I just can't imagine, like you said, Matt, how could you start a career better than Jefferson has? You literally can't. And the Vikings are going to have to pay him here pretty soon. And I can only imagine how much money he's going to get.
Dude, he's gonna
It's
get.
gonna.
If I was him, I'd ask for like 35 million. That's 3 more than Brown. I think that's what I would go for. 4, I think 36. You might be starting to push it. I feel like 35.
Do you think he would ask for 40?
That's where I'd start. I'd say, look, I want $40 million.
Start at 40.
And then I've watched enough Pawn Stars to know how this goes. They say 40. The other guy says 33. And then somewhere in the middle of that.
33 would feel insulting if I were Jefferson a little bit. Like, you think I'm only worth $1 million?
Yeah, you'd have to pay me more than that, buddy. Like,
depends on what he does this year too.
That.
I mean, if he puts up like a measly like 1,500 yards, only 33 million.
Well, they got to get it done this offseason. If I'm Jefferson, I'm holding out. Like, why do I have to play for a bigger contract after what I've done? I mean, other guys from my draft class. Like, I want it done today. And what are you gonna do? Not pay it? Like, what else do I have to prove? I'd say like maybe 35. Like, I don't know. Maybe if you were really serious.
I feel like 40 is
out,
definitely like the first number you're throwing out. Just see if you can like.
Yeah, going from 32 per year to 40 is a really crazy jump, and I think that's what
maybe
AJ Brown.
I don't know. Maybe if you structure
at any rate, is AJ Brown next on the list?
Is AJ Brown next on the list? He is at number 3.
I did not have AJ Brown at 3.
I did.
Hater. I also did.
He's great.
CeeDee Lamb at 3.
Yeah. Lamb's good.
Debatable after last year. I think.
Yeah, Lamb's really good.
Slot merchant, though, I'm afraid. Give me the dunk on everybody on the go route. Boy.
Why don't they play AJ Brown in the slot a bunch and have him do that then?
Because he's awesome at contested catches down the field. He's like the best at it, and he's the best versus press, I think, and he's the best pushing. He's the best push-off artist maybe of all time, like to get open. And then he's I think more of a monster than Lamb with the ball in his hands. I think Lamb just had a better season, but I think that it can go back and forth very easily with those two. And if I had to take one, I think that AJ Brown gets me more explosive plays. And really, his season, as kind of dysfunctional as it was, and how at the end of the year he was, frustrated and angry and definitely not having his best stretch of games of the season, he still had 1,456 yards, 7 touchdowns. Just going through a success rate on targets of 56%, which is more than he had last year. He's just like unbelievable, and I've always felt that he's underrated since he was in Tennessee, and I've always kind of ranked him highly. And CeeDee is coming off the better season, but give me AJ Brown. I think he's just a beast.
AJ Brown is a beast, man. He is. He's another guy that just fits a mold for me to what I envision a wide receiver should be. Like, if I think about, again, what kind of receiver would a quarterback want to throw to? AJ Brown is one of those first guys to come to mind, just because he's so easy to throw. Like, anything you throw his way, it's like, yeah, he's probably the best deep ball tracker in the league, and he's great at the catch point, and he's great against press. It's like he does everything well to make your job easy for you. So and he's great over the middle. Like, he's outstanding over the middle. I just don't know what more you would want from him.
I feel like he unlocked Hurts more than like CeeDee unlocked Dak, if that makes sense. I feel like putting AJ Brown in that offense just completely transformed it. And I mean, CeeDee, I think, is clearly extremely important to the Cowboys. And again, I think he just is coming off a better season than AJ Brown, but I just don't know if he quite unlocked everything that AJ Brown did. But
well, is that because Dak was already established, or because CeeDee is worse than AJ Brown?
I think it's because Dak was already established to some degree, but I think that it's an accomplishment that Brown can really say that he did. Like, I don't know.
They give him a trophy for it, put it on his mantle.
Brown is just a little bit more, I don't know. Brown is just a bit more of a 3-level scorer, I guess, is another thing.
I think I'd rank it more of an archetype than like AJ Brown is better than CeeDee Lamb. I don't know. That might be how I look at it.
But give us the Lamb argument, Matt. Because it sounds like, do you even have AJ Brown at 4, or do you have him even lower than that?
I had him at 5.
Okay.
But no, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is coming off an absolutely unbelievable season where he was seeing an incredible amount of defensive attention, and he still produced at an incredibly high level. And you can say, like, well, this was just his best season, but like, why? Why was it his best season? It doesn't make any sense. And he was more efficient. Yeah, because he's really good, man. He's an unbelievable route runner, dude. His ability to stop is legitimately like crazy, man. I mean, I was thinking about deceleration recently, and I wonder where he would rank percentile among NBA players, because I was looking at that. I think it would be freakishly high. And not only is he just like a great athlete, and that makes him that type of special route runner, but he's a great salesman. He's incredibly nuanced. And I think you kind of get to maybe a level with that stuff where it's like, okay, but what else? Where it's like, okay, you're an elite route runner, but there's a lot of guys who are elite route runner. But at the end of the day, like, his production is just so unbelievable, and he can get so much off of that, where it's like, yeah, he doesn't have like the size or maybe like the contested catch skill that AJ Brown does, but it's not like this is CeeDee's first season on this level, producing like this. I mean, he had only like 1,600 yards last year or whatever. So I think he's totally deserving of the 3 spot. I think Brown is really great, and I'm not as confident in my receiver list as I am like the quarterback list, because there's so many guys and there's so much to consider. I honestly, just even looking at like the yards rankings, you'd be stunned how many dudes are getting above 1,500 yards now. How many dudes are reaching 1,000 yards? Everybody's got one. It wasn't like that when I was 10, but I think CeeDee is easily up there for me.
Yeah,
I got CeeDee at 4. He's got the highest receiving EPA in football last year. They put him in the slot, and him and Dak would just cook. You give CeeDee a 2-way go. There's just absolutely no way to stop him. And his body control is what stands out to me the most about him. And you see it in his route running, and you see it when he makes catches. He had one against the Vikings where he was falling backwards. This is several years ago now, but he's like falling backwards, and he's not catching it as he's falling. Like, he's falling and like tracking the ball as he's getting closer and closer to his back hitting the ground. And then, like, right before his back hits the ground and a catch would become impossible, that's when he really reaches out and snags it. And it's like, how did he do that? That was, I mean, his ability to play the ball, absolutely special. His ability to catch it and make people miss because of that, absolutely special. Just super slithery and elastic and flexible, and overall one of the elite players in the game. I just think it's the same kind of athleticism with Brown, and I just think he gives you a little bit more field stretching ability up the boundary. And if you put him in the slot and had him eat, I think that and fed him at the target rate of, well, is that true? I can check this instantly. Okay, he does have the target rate of CeeDee, so I'm wrong. I was about to think like, with Davante Smith, maybe it wouldn't be quite the same volume, but it is the same target rate for AJ Brown and CeeDee. So I'll give that to CeeDee.
Yeah, I mean the Eagles do have like more guys to go to, or like more really good guys to go to, but Goddard was hurt for a lot of last year. I don't know. Our consensus number 4 was CeeDee Lamb, and I had him at number 4. Theo, I think you just said you have him at number 4. So, like, again, for me, it's mostly an archetype thing. I prefer the big, strong, like, go get me the football type of receiver. And And AJ Brown is just he's able to just out physical you in ways that like CeeDee Lamb has great body control, like you guys have mentioned, and he's a great route runner. But I just have become more enticed by the AJ Brown archetype more so. So, but CeeDee was great this year. He was second in yards. He caught like 73 or 74% of his passes. Just absolutely outstanding year for him. And he was our consensus number 4. But Matt, he was your number 3.
Number 5. Or no, CeeDee.
CeeDee was
anyway,
his,
sorry.
CeeDee was
who's a consensus number 5 then?
The consensus number 5 is Jamar Chase. I'm glad to see he didn't fall out of here.
No. He didn't have a very good year at all, at least by top 5 receiver terms, which is so unbelievably tough. But he was injured and he was not playing with Burrow. And I still 1000% believe in him as the type of freak that he was really 2 years ago. You want to talk about wide receivers who elevated a team. I mean, one of the all-time like examples of that is really Jamar Chase bringing such a level of explosiveness to that Bengals offense that they went and were able to make the Super Bowl, right? There's not many guys who are doing that. His high end of contested catches are some of the most unbelievable plays, that you'll see. And the way that he challenges everybody deep is just so valuable. It's definitely tough to balance that with like an ultra productive guy out of the slot. So I sort of feel like in this list, maybe it can go back and forth a little bit. Like Lamb is more the ultra productive guy out of the slot. Like, hey, what do you have? Like 1,800 yards this year, 1,700 yards, whatever. But I suspect Chase healthy with Burrow maybe with more time with a better offensive line. I think it's looking a little bit better than it usually does. I think he could have like his big breakout, like the numbers go really, really crazy for him here.
Yeah, I think that he is, first of all, the hardest guy to tackle maybe in the league. That guy never goes down on first contact, ever. Yeah. If he catches it, I will bet you at any point, like it doesn't matter the situation, but especially on like third down, if there's one guy in front of him, that guy is not tackling him. There needs to be two. Because he will break the first tackle every time. He's a lot like AJ Brown, where he's just too broad and fast and good in contested catch situations that you can't press him. Once he catches it, you can't bring him down because you're a DB and you're just too small. And it's a major problem. You don't think of him as maybe the most nuanced elite route runners of all time, but it doesn't really matter because you find ways to get them the football. They're good at cutting, so just give them a slant, right? They're going to be good at it. And they're not bad, like unrefined route runners or anything like that. They're just, it's not the central part of their game. It's just like send them on a slant, they'll catch it, and then the fireworks really, really start. And I think Jamar could easily rank as high as probably 3, maybe 2 if Tyreek pushes 30 and falls off. Just kind of depends on the quarterback situations with these top 5, kind of like the quarterbacks. I think it's maybe a tier of 2 at the top, whereas quarterbacks, it's just Mahomes. And then we had it the next 4 quarterbacks all in a tier. And then here, the next like 3 wide receivers of Chase, Brown, and Lamb for me, because I think of those guys are a little different than the rest of the list as of right now.
Yeah, I do feel like this top 5 is kind of it, right? Like these are the guys that you have that you're going to have in the top 5. I think Adams has a case as well. He had a pretty great year despite the quarterback issues of the Raiders, but
I couldn't put Adams above any of these guys at this point.
I don't think so. I can't.
He's not washed, but I can't put him above these guys.
Yeah, he's coming off a very weird season on a weird Raiders team. I would agree that this is pretty solidly the top 5, and I agree. I think there could be a decent amount of movement, but I think I'm with you, Theo. Who did we have at 6?
Before we say who we have at 6, I have to say who Theo had at 6 because it's a problem that we need to address.
It's not a problem.
Okay, our consensus number 6, Matt, who me and you had at 6, was Davante Adams. Theo had Jalen Waddle.
Give me Waddle over Adams, bro.
The fact, no. I don't even have an issue with you having Waddle in your top 10. But the fact that you have Waddle so solidified over Devontae Smith and Michael Pittman and other guys in that team,
bro, it's easy.
No, stop.
It's easy.
Stop.
I'm taking
You're
Waddle.
insane.
It's so easy. I'm not insane for that.
You're insane.
I'm not insane
man.
for
oh my.
No, I'm not. I am not. I am not crazy. You just said Michael Pittman. Like I should have seriously considered Michael Pittman above Waddle. Why would I do that?
Michael Pittman had more yards, more touchdowns on the same catch rate, if not, I think he had the same catch rate, if not better. Like,
put down the calculator, man. He's not the route runner. He doesn't have the speed.
He's not the route runner. He doesn't have the speed.
He doesn't have the yak. I mean,
his contested
and if we're talking just raw numbers,
look at his contested catch rate, man.
Sure, but if we're looking at numbers, like all the efficiency numbers would say Waddle over Pittman, and even like raw numbers, his average over the last 2 seasons, Pittman is at 1,038 yards, 4 touchdowns. Waddle, as a number 2 over the last 2 seasons, is at 1,185 and 6 touchdowns. So he's been more productive from a yard standpoint these last 2 years. And he's more efficient. And here's the thing with Waddle,
we're comparing, but like he's slightly more productive than Michael Pittman, and he's number 6. Like 1,100 yards is your number 6 wide receiver.
I mean, he missed 3 games last year.
I don't know.
So 1,000 yards.
Was he all that crazy before that you would have
missing
6 games? Missing 3 games and being number 6 is like him falling in your rankings to me. Like,
do you know his per 17 games? He's at 1,300 these last 2 years. 1,300 is a lot. Like he's been plenty productive.
I don't know, man.
What do you think Adams is at these last 2 years per 17 games?
Davante Adams?
Yeah. He's at 1,330.
Crazy setup. Now, I have a couple of opinions. Number 1, Michael Pittman, top 10 receiver, Blaiden.
I'm not saying that he is. I'm saying Waddle isn't. That's my point.
I think Waddle has a good case for being top 10. I think he does. But to be completely honest with you, I think comparing Davante Adams and Jalen Waddle's raw production is nasty business. That is filthy. We cannot compare the Raiders situation.
Because Adams gets 50 more targets a game, or 50 more targets a season.
But they're not the same targets.
And 90% of them are way over his head or whatever, man.
Still.
Yeah,
brother.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here. Oh, where's Waddle's production? Per 17 games these last 2 years, it's neck and neck with where Adams is at. And yes, I understand. Tua is better than who the Raiders have. He's better than Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Tua ain't that good though, bro.
They've got the timing offense down, man. They don't have a timing offense at all.
They do, but why do they have the timing offense down? Because they got Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Like Jalen Waddle, it's a lot of it.
It's also
Jalen
because
Waddle
Tua is really good at that stuff.
He is good at that stuff, but
I just want
to say carried by the wide receivers.
I just want to say, Theo had Jalen Waddle at 6, Puka Nacua not in your top 10.
I'm taking Waddle over Puka Nacua, dude. Just that simple. I think what Waddle offers, any routes that you don't even know, Jalen Waddle can run because he's so fast with that kind of body control. He's great, I think. He has his share of drops, but for a speedster, he is reliable over the middle, like catching through contact for a fast guy. He's better than you'd expect. So dangerous with the ball in his hands, more dangerous than Michael Pittman and Puka Nacua. I think that he's the number 2 on this offense. He's not the number 1. I think if you were to give him 50 more targets on a different team, like it's not Tua, man. Like I think that he would have a monster year statistically in a situation where he was the number one. I like Tyreek is great. I understand why he's the number one. Waddle came in. He was the alpha in Miami as a rookie, and Tua, Mike McDaniel hadn't arrived yet. Tua was not that good, and Waddle was like an underneath threat and was great at it. He set the rookie reception record, I think. He had over 1,000 yards. His success rate was the highest it's been in his career as a catcher. He caught 74% of his targets, and they were all underneath. It's like that's not even his game, and he could do it. Now he's the number two, and he's the most efficient
because they were all underneath passes.
Yeah, but still, he was picking around. You wouldn't expect it from a speedster, and now he's the number two. He's taking a back seat, and still he's 1,300 yards per 17 games. I think that Waddle is waiting to break out, like A.J. Brown when he was in Tennessee. He never had the numbers. I think Waddle is the same exact situation where he is an alpha superstar wide receiver one who right now just isn't in the situation to show it.
I think I can agree with some of that. I feel in your case. I think that not having Puka, because he's kind of just like this slot, like just racking up a bunch of catches, a lot of underneath stuff. I mean, that's crap. That's not good. But here's the thing about Jalen Waddle. He came in as a rookie, and he got like a lot of this underneath stuff, and just something about him. I don't know. I find a little bogus. That I think
I'm
is
just
a
saying,
little
like,
unfair.
His production predates McDaniels and all this, and Tua being an MVP candidate, and there was a point where he came in and was just the number one guy, and he set the rookie all-time receptions record. I think that that's impressive for him. I'm not saying that. I'm just taking him over Puka, and I love Puka. I love Puka. I think that he is fantastic. I think that at this point I would take him over Kupp. I just would rather have Waddle.
I would take Puka over Kupp too. Kupp, we're now enough years removed from his historic season to say that it might have been a one-time thing.
I think Puka was a beast last year. I have him on my list, but I wish I had Waddle higher. I'll give you that. I think it's a good case for him. Who did we have consensus at 6? Davante Adams.
Davante Adams.
I like it. Look, I love Davante.
No, because sometimes I feel like here's how you got to play these lists where it's like, okay, Davante Adams or Jalen Waddle, like, dude, eventually Waddle is going to be the correct answer, and Davante Adams is still in like a disaster situation, and Waddle is not, bro. Like, I think I know how that's gonna play out, dude. I mean, unless you think like Davante Adams having like a crazy good year would be unbelievable. It would make him like among like the best receiver. It would put him in like the top 3 category. And like that's just not going to happen. And he is starting to get older, so I don't know.
Adams is still sick. I love Davante Adams. I think that his foot speed hasn't gone anywhere, which is important. Like when he sets you up, it just happens so quickly. I think he still has that burst to win vertically. It's just no one could hit him over there. He's fantastic. He's still fantastic. For me, the thing that Adams is starting to lose a little bit of juice of, or never had it at an elite level, maybe in the first place, is he's not the kind of yak threat that some of these other guys are. And I think in contested situations, Adams is not the guy I'm picking super highly in that specific trait, like making catches through contact. I think in Las Vegas has been a little bit underwhelming. His hands. But I think his route running is still crazy elite. I still have him I still think he's a top 10 receiver, but I think some of these younger guys just have a little bit more juice. It's dealing with physicality, but he still has like ways to beat it. Like if someone's trying to press him, he'll just cook you, right? And if you try to push him down the field, like he'll cook you. So
he has always to me been the most nuanced route runner. As far as like, if anyone is better at setting people up and like feeling leverage, I don't know if anyone's better at it that I've seen in my lifetime than Davante Adams.
He's sick.
So, yeah, we had him as our consensus 6. Matt and I both had him at 6. Theo, I think you had him at 9. I'm not
I think
wrong.
I did.
Yes, you had him at 9. So that's Davante. Our number 7 consensus guy is Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, I think I had him at
He's
like
nice. He's
8.
nice.
Yeah,
And
Matt,
Aiyuk
you
is
and I
kind
had him
of-
at 8.
Yeah, I think I had him at 8. But it was one of the last decision I made before texting you. What I wrote down and what I texted you was 2 different things because it was Aiyuk and Amon-Ra between 7 and 8. Aiyuk is a beast. I mean, and kind of for the same logic of Waddle, and that's why I definitely should have had Waddle like on my list and higher. Is that like he just cannot get the target share. He cannot get the target share to put up the crazy numbers. But in terms of like his efficiency and just how explosive he is and how deadly of a route runner he is, it's clear that if you put him in that world, how much he'd be able to do. And it's honestly kind of a shame. It's kind of a shame that he didn't get traded, just for the sense of like I'd love to see what he could bring.
I want to see him featured in the
49ers
playoffs.
are right.
Yeah. Ayuk's just a guy that moves different. Like if you watch him catch the ball in the air, and it's like, Theo, you talk about guys that move like an insect. That's how Aiyuk looks when he catches the ball over the middle and then he's like turning upfield. It's like you're watching a creature move around out there. It's just different, man.
Someone who's he's
exciting to watch.
He is. He's super slithery and he can really disconnect all of his limbs, which is fun. And he's a Sun Devil. Notice how there's a Sun Devil before any Ohio State receiver. Could that be right?
Oh, okay, brother.
Forks up, baby. Right. Forks up, baby. But yeah, I think I had Aiyuk and I think I had Aiyuk and Waddle right next to each other. Aiyuk can just run weird routes, I feel like, because of how he's able to disconnect himself and his speed. And you saw the catch he had versus the Lions when he went out on the deep route and it bounced off the guy's face mask and he caught it on the bounce, like outside of his body. It's like, man, the body control and hand-eye coordination needed to do that, plus the speed to take the top off in the first place. He's got it all. He's a filthy route runner. He doesn't have the playoff success I expected, considering how often the 49ers have been there and how good he's been. But I do think that that's where his role and like how many mouths there are to feed and like just the defenses get tougher. I think he could be a little bit more heavily featured and the 49ers would be better for it actually, instead of like, Aiyuk's getting locked up.
I don't know why he wasn't featured as much this year, but I feel like last year for sure it was definitely because they had no quarterbacks. And like after Purdy got hurt, it was like,
well, yeah, that you're willing to give him a pass for
that year.
But just overall, like, he only has 1 playoff touchdown in his life. He has 22 first downs in 9 games, less than 400 yards. Like just a little. I haven't talked about playoff stats with anyone else because a lot of these guys haven't really been there. But Aiyuk reliably has, and like he's played 9 playoff games in his career, and I just think. It doesn't even really speak to how good he is, I think. I just think it speaks to they need to get him more involved because he's the 7th best receiver in the league. Like he's awesome.
Yeah. He is pretty damn good. And our consensus number 8, Matt, you said you were picking between these two. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the sun god. Talk about he doesn't like pop off the screen as much as like Aiyuk does. Or, he doesn't have the game-breaking speed that some of these guys do, but he is just old, reliable. He's kind of like if Travis Kelce was a wide receiver, he would be Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, these guys, they work from the slot and, for what that's worth, and they're maybe not the most athletic guys in the world, take the top off the defense, but somehow there always seems to be a dude like that or two on these like really good winning teams, and they get a lot of yards. I think you got to respect that at some point. And I know Cooper Kupp, like not continuing to be the best player of all time like he was for that one season has maybe sunk that a little bit, but there just is a lot of value in being able to be a reliable weapon over the middle. I mean, the Lions pass game, like their receiver room would be a disaster without him.
Yeah.
If he did not carry the way that he does, it's not some like, okay, well, I've got a bunch of other dudes out here who are making the defense stress out, and then I'm just, cleaning up and getting where I need to go. It's him cooking and him just being on the same page with Goff and feeling out zones and getting himself open. And he's good after the catch too, even though he's not the fastest guy in the world. Sometimes when you just take the right angle and you get north, that alone is good enough. In fact, I think there's more guys in the NFL who are like have incredible moves and they're incredibly twitchy, who aren't quite as good after the catch as they should be because they just don't get north. Amon-Ra St. Brown to me is kind of the opposite of that. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. He produced majorly this season for a reason. I think 8's fair.
Yeah, he did.
He's the
what is
he's
it?
The
Third was he third in
DeAndre
yards
Swift.
this year?
Counting playoffs, I think so.
Not counting playoffs, he was 4th. Or no, he was 3rd. I was looking at Puka. That's my bad. Yeah.
It's ridiculous, man.
He was quite nice. He was
3rd in yards,
quite nice.
10 touchdowns. Yeah, man. Hard to.
Yeah, my only thing with
him,
him, and I had him lower than you guys, is I do think that he is a little limited to the slot. Like, if you were to do trips, for example, you wouldn't have him as the X receiver. I think you'd kind of want him working with the other guys, like picking and prodding underneath, which is fine. That's a perfectly valid way to win. It's just if you had another elite receiver, could you ever like switch them? Because then like. Would you ever want him outside? Whereas like Justin Jefferson can win inside, he can win outside. So if you had another guy like Addison, he can win inside, he can win outside. So you have just all this unlimited versatility. With Amon-Ra, he is just kind of limited to that one spot. He's not someone who can take the top off and work underneath. He can kind of he's more a 2-level scorer as opposed to a 3-level scorer, I would say. There are guys who are threaten the defense in a bit more ways. But, I mean, like you said, Matt, these winning teams always seem to have a guy who is good underneath. Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, like Amon-Ra, George Kittle, like tight end, slot receiver, whoever it is, like having a security blanket that good is translated to winning so much that maybe I should value guys like Amon-Ra and maybe Kupp and Puka and although Puka got pressed a decent amount last year, so I can't even say that. But anyway.
When it comes to your feet, eBay's got your back, because with eBay's authenticity guarantee, real experts are checking your sneakers, every stitch down to the sole. Me personally, I'm a big fan of a classic Air Force, or maybe a nice suede or leather boot, but whatever it is that you're adding to the lineup next, head to eBay. From the drop to your doorstep, eBay does not play with your sneaker game. Just look for that blue check mark. So ensure your next purchase is the real deal. Visit ebay.com for terms.
Who did we have at 9, Blaiden?
Oh, none other than DJ Moore.
Nice. I still love him. I don't care.
It's hard not to love him. I think he's a very lovable guy.
He's done so well with such bad quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing I want people to realize. Like, he has still not had a serious like passing offense. He still has not had a serious quarterback situation. Things were like kind of okay in Carolina during the Bridgewater years, but even then, like, I think they just kind of fumbled their way into having 3 1,000 yards receivers one time. Moore is right up there with anybody physically. And I think that he has a little bit more juice as a route runner than maybe the average guy of his size. And he produced well this year, even with, Fields and Badgen being the one throwing to him. I think with Williams and with Adunze out there, first off, I don't think anybody's going to be able to handle that size. That 1-2 punch is going to be unbelievable. And I think he's absolutely going to eat with Caleb throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he's just great. I think he is awesome after the catch. So sturdy, just breaks a ton of tackles. Really good with the ball in the air, like high pointing it, making contested catches. He's really strong there. He's a good route runner. He has reliable hands, I'd say. there's just not a lot to find that's wrong with him. I mean, maybe he doesn't have
Right.
the athleticism of some of the guys above him on this list. Maybe he's never quite had a peak season like some of the guys above him on this list. But man, he's been consistent with some really, really horrific quarterback situations. And that Fields was just a minor upgrade, or not just a minor upgrade. He's a pretty major
I don't know.
upgrade versus like Kyle Allen, but still, right? Fields struggled. Bagent was in for a long time. Still, 1,364 yards, huge, huge marked upgrade over where he was before. And now with Caleb, like, who's to say? We'll see how many targets everybody gets, but let's say like Keenan Allen gets hurt and misses a couple weeks, and it's just him and Adunze. Like the two of them are going to put up like crazy numbers, right? Like DJ Moore could put up even more than he had like last year, but he also could not, I guess.
He could, or if 50-50 chance, he either does or he doesn't, you know?
Yeah, and he's been ultra reliable and ultra consistent. I just think he's due, man. He's due for a big year. He might not get the 170 targets you need to match up with these top guys, but
maybe not.
He's so incredibly good. That Bears team is going to be very, very good, man.
Yeah, I agree. Their offense. I'm not going to spoil it, but keep an eye out for my YouTube video on them and Shane Waldron and how everything's going to fit together. I think it's a really good marriage. I'll say that. I mean, that's a guy who likes to gun it. Shane Waldron. Go look at the Seahawks passing stats last year. Like they dropped back a lot. Their passing rate was very high, and they're going to get wide and spread you out and get vertical and bomb it, really. And it's going to be a lot of opportunities to get a lot of yards. So I think
they've got the receivers for it.
They do have they got the quarterback for it.
Yeah.
They've got
it all.
I think they got the play caller for it. So I'm expecting a big year out of DJ Moore, and he's just never let me down. he always produces no matter what. So yeah, this year, why not? And he does everything you need him to do. He's like I've said a lot, 3-level scorer, all levels, hands good, after catch great. Like, what's not to like?
Nothing. The last guy on our top 10 of our consensus top 10 list is Puka Nacua, the rookie.
Yeah, I mean, he's a total beast. He is good against press, like you said. I mean, sometimes I think he sort of gets like, well, he's kind of like another Cooper Kupp, so he works out of the slot. It's crucial. That's not really the case. I mean, Cooper Kupp was also on that team, you know? So
right. Their roles had to have been different.
Right. It's like they couldn't.
They're running the same routes right next to each other.
Sean McVay's a genius, man. I don't.
But Puka is a really strong route runner. He's a really physical player. He's incredibly good going up for the ball. He had some drop issues that like definitely plagued him. And I don't like to drop guys too much for drop issues or move them down too much, because at the end of the day, it's more about like how you stress defenses out and your overall production rather than like a couple of bad ones. But it's not nothing with him. It's not a no problem at all. But I think, again, the production speaks for itself a little bit here. I mean, he had arguably the greatest wide receiver like rookie season ever, at least from a production standpoint. I don't think like if you put Puka on that Bengals team that went to the Super Bowl in place of Jamar Chase, that it's the same thing. There is some value in how, like you stretch the field, like we said. But I think Puka has already established himself up here, or maybe I'm giving him a little bit of a boost because I think like he's got to be even better after this year. Like if that's what he did as a rookie, what can he do next year? But even if he's not quite at this level, he's not very far off.
And I will say, I give him somewhat of a pass on the drop issues just because Stafford is a weird thrower.
No, Stafford's a beautiful thrower.
No, he is. But like, if you're not used to the way Stafford throws, like every once in a while he could hit you with just some gnarly shit, and you're like, oh, I can't believe that came to me. And I guarantee if you were to go
Maybe.
back and ask him, like, why'd you drop that pass? You'd be like, honestly, I didn't think Stafford was going to get it there. Like, and so that would be my only thing is that, like, there's a chance
I
that
could maybe see
he's
that.
just, that's the only thing I would think of is that Stafford just, like, because he could just hit some
He's one of those
weird
guys
arm
who will
angles.
really put some mustard on the ball. I think it's so funny with Puka. It's like you almost forget. First 4 games, 120, 147, 72, 163 yards. He was a 5th-round rookie. Game 1, they gave him 14 targets. Game 2, they give him 19 targets. That is unbelievable for a 5th rounder. I can't think that anything like that has ever happened before or since.
Yeah, he's just so solid. I remember scouting him because he was number 1 in yards per route run or something in college football. So I was like, okay, well, we'll check him out. And then you watch him, and he's just like a pro wide receiver. Like, he's big. He's catching everything. Like, he's a nuanced route runner. He's showing really good technique catching the football in, like, different situations, like twisting his body away from where defenders are to protect the football as soon as it hits his hands. And it's like, damn, this guy, it was my greatest take ever, I think, just calling him. And then immediately after our dynasty sleeper league, like picking him up after as an undrafted free agent, but it just goes to show like how consistent he is and has always been, and it just gets overlooked, I guess, including by me, because I had Amari Cooper at number 10.
I don't hate Amari Cooper at 10. I think Amari Cooper, you want to talk
Really?
about
I'm shocked you didn't have him.
I had him at I had Amari Cooper at, what is that, 11, I think. So you want to talk about ultra?
Nice,
so
man.
We'll get in. Let's get into some of our honorable mentions. So Jalen Waddle came in at 11, carried solely by Theo's 6th ranking. Matt, you said you would have put him a little bit higher.
I would have put him a little bit higher.
He might have come in at. He might have come in at 9
I ranked
or 10.
11 and 12. I should have flipped them and had it at Nico Collins 11, Garrett Wilson, heat check 12.
I think that's fair. Garrett Wilson was our consensus 12.
I kind of regret having him at 12 instead of Puka, now that you kind of went through it. And
here's the thing. I believe in Wilson so much, but then you go and look at it and you're like, the 12th most like established guy is still putting up like 1,400 yards on incredible efficiency.
Yeah, but
like,
he's also had just as weird of a situation as like Davante. Like,
true, but like there's some level of like you gotta prove it when we're talking about like this high up. I think. Yeah. But I think Wilson is just so incredible, man. What worries me is that what if Rodgers is like not that good this year and it's really not that much better, which is possible.
Yeah, that would suck.
I think,
but
Wilson,
no, he said sorry kid last year. No, he has to be good just for Garrett Wilson.
The aura.
I'm be saying sorry
sorry kid is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry kid
that
is crazy.
So sad. Dude, he's open so much though, Garrett Wilson. I think Wilson is a great route runner. I think that he is unbelievable after the catch. And he's one of those guys where maybe sometimes he's a bit too east-west, but some of the situations where that he wiggles himself out of are we've said unbelievable too many times this episode, but he can be bracketed by 2 guys, and he's one of the dudes I'd take to somehow split that double with some move I've never seen before. At the catch point, like, man, it just makes me so sad. He's so good, but these guys just don't even give him a chance. It's like, how are you so bad that Garrett Wilson doesn't have a prayer to, like, he can't teleport, man. If it's a fade and he's behind the corner, he can't get in front of that corner, dude. He's not going to be able to do that. Like, you got to throw it up, and he's always trying to reach over people and, like, grab it from the corner's ass. Like, he's trying to pick it off the corner's like lower back. It's like just put it up, dude. I've seen him tip it to himself. I've seen him do all these crazy
He's
things.
so it's like the numbers don't back it up because it's so
but
ugly,
the numbers
dude.
just don't back it up at all.
It's a horrible situation.
But he really is like, and that's why I thought he was underrated coming into the draft, where it's like, dude, he is such a master contested catch artist, and he's not built like one. But I swear to God, like, he just does have that in him. He just is like that. He just does make those plays when you give him a chance. So I'm hoping that Rodgers, like, even if he's like immobile this year or really slowed down by the Achilles, I'm hoping that Rodgers can at least, place the ball for him on a fade a little bit better, or just get some better timing for him, or whatever, man, or just hit him.
There's no reason why Garrett Wilson can't be as good as Aiyuk from what I've seen on film.
Yes,
but Puka just actually was. So I should have.
And that's why I maybe regret having him over like some guys.
But here's the other guy. You'll like this, Matt. The other guy I had as an honorable mention was Marv.
You know what? I was as I was making my list, I legitimately the first thing I thought to myself was like, Theo's gonna have some fake woke Marvin Harrison opinion. I know it, bro.
But seriously, it's like Marv.
But I could
draft any wide receiver like of anybody, like I kind of would take Marv Crazy Eye, dude. Like
all
he's
right.
so
I'm taking
big
Xavier Legette, honorable mention.
But we skipped over Amari Cooper. He's who I had at number 10.
Yes.
I don't know if
I love Amari Cooper. I love Amari. You want to talk about ultra consistent? Matt, I know you're laughing. It's like, of course you love Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, Ohio State players, Gamecocks. This is great.
But Amari Cooper is like
another guy that has been. Cooper, yeah.
He is another guy like DJ Moore who is the epitome of consistency. This guy is always good. And through the round robin of quarterbacks that the Browns had this year, he was still their most one of the most reliable targets in the league.
He had his best year ever.
I don't think that's far-fetched at all.
It's obvious, I think. I mean, he had his career high in yards with that quarterback situation.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he did. He had 1,200 for the first time, which isn't a crazy amount, but
no.
To do what he's done with
4 quarterbacks, man, I don't.
It is a little bit carried by like his one unbelievable legendary game where he had 270 yards. But to be fair, like he did go out and have 270 yards. You know, and it's like that game was they could not stop him, man. And it wasn't didn't they like take him out of the game in the fourth quarter?
It wasn't a fake Keenan Allen versus the Vikings game either, where he caught every pass wide open because the zones were there. He was. I prefer the Amari Cooper game to the Keenan Allen game if we're talking about vets getting like 250 yards in 2023.
Can we talk about what's up with like Browns receivers? Amari Cooper and Josh Gordon have 2 of the greatest receiving performances ever.
Just from nobody's throwing it to them.
Brandon Whedon and
Flacco was his quarterback, who isn't a nobody, but at this point he was a surprise. And I think Amari Cooper was a huge reason why Flacco won Comeback Player of the Year. Yeah. I think that 270-yard performance did a lot for Flacco too, in his even smaller sample size. And that was like kind of an Amari Cooper carry job, like Flacco said after the game. Amari Cooper is really good. So to do what he did this year with such bad wide receivers, or not bad wide receivers, such bad quarterbacks, and as the number 1 wide receiver by far on that team, I felt like he's unsexy, but he also missed 2 games. And had his career high in yards. So he did. I like Amari Cooper, and he was good last year as well. I think his 2 highest receiving seasons ever. No, there's 1 year in Dallas that tops it.
He did
in Cleveland. Like
Cleveland has really we got him for a 5th, man.
Yeah,
that was crazy value. He's been great for us.
You're paying him or whatever.
Oh,
but you got him for a 5th rounder, and that's it. My fault. I'm sorry.
We did.
I mean,
We
that's
got him
a
for fifth.
good move for Cleveland.
Yeah,
There's
it's still a
that
good
is-
move.
that
Don't
is-
get me wrong.
that's fake woke, and I had it at the time. I was like, well,
No.
actually, there's a reason why he went for a fifth. It's like, okay, that was a good use of a
They
pick.
No, it's
man,
true woke.
imagine if the
True woke.
Cowboys
Come on.
had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. They could
Damn,
have
that
been-
is actually a fake woke. Actually, when they trade for a player, it's for their contract as well, so that's why he went for a 6th rounder. It's like, that's just lame as hell. It's like, no, this idiot front office just traded a great player for a 6th round pick, and they're stupid, and that's why it happened.
Yes, exactly. That
I
was a
gotta-
great
I
pick
gotta-
for Cleveland.
I'm removing that one from the arsenal. That's no longer my take anymore.
You know,
out of your
sometimes
vocabulary.
we're young, man. We're 23. Imagine how good analysts we're gonna be by 40.
By
This
40.
That's my hope, man.
You're
It
just gonna be
inspires
so,
me. I've
so refined.
we'll be able to say like, oh, remember, this is just like the Amari Cooper situation. Kids are gonna be like, Braxton Clax is way better.
I remember
Amari
back
Cooper
in
would
24
never
when I was
survive.
fake woke about this same thing, and Amari Cooper.
I could be like, what does woke mean?
When
No
when
one
the
knows.
Cowboys trade Huel Jinkley for a 6th round pick, we'll
Braxton Clax, they're gonna say Braxton
Braxton
Clax is
Clax.
nothing like Amari Cooper. He's
so
a mutant
true.
cyborg. But
He's a
yeah,
mutant
he's
cyborg.
enough spamming
Yeah.
our bits.
So Waddle was in there, Wilson was in there, Cooper, Marv. The other guy that was in our honorable mention list that we have not talked about is Nico Collins.
He's a Matt election.
He was a
Um,
beast
valid.
last year, man.
Yes.
He was
He
very
was.
good. I didn't have him super I didn't have him in my top 10, but I did have him as an
No.
honorable mention. He was incredibly efficient. I mean, he was a big body, and he was on the money for Stroud.
yeah.
He's moving well. And I think part of it is that like Stroud does such a good job like being aggressive and placing the ball. I think that really helped him, obviously, but I think he still deserves some credit for how he was able to produce as like a true like number one.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
he was
that Browns
third in
game
the
was
league. He
special.
was third in the league in yards per target at 11.9.
Wow.
The guys
That's
ahead
crazy
of him were
efficient, man. That's
the
nuts.
guys ahead of him were Brandon Aiyuk at 12.8 and Khalil Shakir at 13.6.
I'm noticing.
The noticer.
What
No,
breakout is going to finally happen this year now that like one of these dudes who's been projected to break out and hasn't just finally gets a quarterback? Because that's what happened to Nico Collins. It was like a couple years in a row. People were like, "Oh, what a sleeper! What a sleeper!"
Yeah.
And then it never happened. And then people kind of gave up on him. But then that was the year that coincided with Stroud arriving. Is there a guy? I'm trying to think.
Well, who got good receivers? I wonder if
Maybe Dotson. Maybe people will be sick of the Jahan Dotson hype, and now he's got a new rookie, and maybe he'll bounce back.
Maybe. I'm trying to think. I have no idea. This is almost like fantasy advice.
It is almost like fantasy advice, but that's just how it goes when you're talking about good wide receivers.
Breakout that hasn't already.
Probably Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen is crazy.
He's gonna vastly exceed the 1,000 yards he had last year.
I feel like it's got to be like Garrett Wilson.
Like that's gonna take the
People have
attention
been
away, bro.
People have been waiting on that 1,800-yard Thielen season.
I think you need about 240 targets to get that done, but
All
if we
right.
run as many screens as we did last year, it could be
Real
done.
breakout guys. I would say either Garrett Wilson, if Rodgers is good,
Yeah, you're right.
or George Pickens, but I don't think he has the quarterback.
That's not a bad pick, but you're right that the quarterback play in both of those places won't be Stroud level. It really has to be Garrett Wilson, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It
It
just
does
must
have to be him.
This 1,500 yard 13 touchdown Garrett more. This 1,900 yard, 26 touchdown season.
Round up to 2K, big bro.
This 2,200 yard, 30 touchdown season from Garrett Wilson will feed families, move mountains.
I'm looking at Pro Football Reference. I'm on the grid. Can you guys name me a Giant and Cardinal real quick?
A Giant and somebody who played for the Giants and the Rogers Cromartie. Did he play for the Cardinals?
I don't remember.
Oh, you're like, okay, you're doing the NFL group.
Maybe. Am I making that up?
About what you were doing.
We'll find out.
He played for the Chargers, didn't he?
He played for a bunch of teams.
You said
bang, 4%, Matt. Good call.
Let's go.
Good call.
I'm terrible at those. I'm so bad, man.
I'm bad at them too.
And then you know what happens? I'm terrible at those, and then every time I start, I'll try one, and I'll do awful, and I won't complete it, and then somehow every time I go to my TikTok and my For You page, and there's Carson naming like,
"Oh, Galaxy, let's go, bro."
That's a Galaxy, but I think I can do a little bit. But let's see if we can't get a unicorn. It's like, dude, no way.
Who played for the Jaguars and Cardinals? With that being said,
the Jags and Cardinals, man.
I feel like there's more, but I do you have any others you need?
Lions and Colts.
Lions and Colts. That's
a hard one. No, like I don't think that's ever happened. Dude. Eric Ebron is, but that's too obvious.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Eric Ebron. That's the only guy I can think of. What the what are the Jags?
You can't even think of him, little bro. You're just mooching off me.
All right, bro.
We didn't say
keep that brain working.
I'm gonna.
I don't know.
How many people said Ebron? This isn't good podcast. 52%, bro.
Yeah, bro.
I'll fill it out.
It's over
on my own time.
It's over for you. While you're doing that, I'm gonna be working on my lawn like a real man. So.
Sure, we can't all have $1 billion, dude.
$1 billion to work.
When the revolution happens, I'm gonna remember that comment, bro.
When the revolution.
When it's time to eat the rich.
I'm gonna remember what you just said right then. When the Red Army is at the gates, bro, I'm gonna be in Ohio.
The Red Army is on Blaiden's lawn.
We're gonna boil you, bro. We're gonna put you in the bowl.
It's too bad.
I kind of liked him, but I remember when he flexed that he got to mow his lawn, and I lived in a lowly apartment. But
my lawn is not that big, so we're chilling.
Oh, now he's trying to. He's scared. He's scared of the Red Army, bro.
No, you're big rich. You have millions of dollars. No shame in it.
Yeah, you're right. Go eat my.
Stay on that side.
Yeah, bro. It's over for me. But
anyway.
Yeah, that does it for another episode of Stay Hot, Stay Red.
The Class Division podcast.
The Class Division podcast.
Bro is over here getting the finest sofas shipped over on camels, stuffed by a master silk worker in Vietnam.
That's true.
That is true.
Hand-woven from worms. He's got to wait for the worms to spin his.
I just met him at college, and
it took so long.
I just met this guy at college, and his dad just happened to be a master silk weaver, and he was like, "Hey, bro, do you want me to build you a couch? It'll be, it's on the house, you know." And I'm like, "Yeah, bro, I got you." Same thing went for my bed, you know. Master woodcarver.
At the end of the day, I guess you're the one sleeping in luxury, I guess. So what can I? Anyway, let's wrap this thing up.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll be back with more content coming your way very soon. We've got some new live stream content coming your way, so make sure you tune in Tuesday evening.
You should.
You should. We spent like 3 hours on a Saturday trying to figure this shit out just for you. And we think it'll be a lot of fun.
3 long hard hours playing video games on stream. Seeing if it works.
No, that's not.
It didn't work sometimes, so Blaiden had work to do.
Yeah, it was pretty much all Blaiden, but yeah.
Yeah, man. So
For me, I literally was locked in playing Rocket League while Blaiden was like trying to
locked in
figure out.
Hey, we almost won though. We almost won that
rate.
game. We almost won that game though.
We were close at the end.
We were in it.
We were a score and an onside kick away with a couple seconds left.
We were down 2 with like a minute. Like that's plenty of time if we had gotten some of the breaks. Like, you know, the refs just weren't on our side that day. But until next time, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.